Na 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 na. Na 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 na. All right. Good morning, everyone. Actually, I don't know where you are in the world or what time it is for you, so it might not be morning for you. For me, I'm actually recording this on Saturday morning at around 11 a.m. So for those of you who are watching via YouTube, as you can tell, I've got my coffee in hand and I am ready to go. But really, wherever you guys are in the world, whatever you're doing right now, I hope you're having a great day. For those of you who are new to listening to this podcast, thank you so much for listening. If you don't know who I am, my name is Kayla Glaze, and I'm a singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, music producer, and music mixer living in Nashville, Tennessee. Before we hop into this episode, if you want to hear more about who I am and why I started this podcast and what this podcast is about, I would encourage you to just jump over to episode 1 real quick. It's pretty short, it's like 9 minutes, and then you can hop into this episode. For those of you who have already heard episode 1 and you're ready to dive into episode 2, let's get it. Okay, so the title of episode 2 is Get Your Head Straight. I'm sure you can already guess what this episode is about, but today we're going to be talking about your mindset and mentality when it comes to pursuing your goals and your dreams. Now, I know that probably sounds cliche, and you're probably sitting there like, I've heard this message a million times, but the truth and the reality is the reason why most people do feel stuck when it comes to pursuing their goals and their dreams and actually taking active steps towards those things. It all goes back to your mindset and mentality. It all goes back to what you're believing about your goals and your dreams and what you're believing about yourself when it comes to pursuing your goals and your dreams. So in order to move forward into your goals and your dreams and actually seeing those things become a reality, we have to go back and we have to actually start at getting to the root of what you're believing. This is honestly something that I do on a consistent basis. Almost every single day, one of the main questions I ask myself is, what am I believing? If I'm feeling stuck, if I'm feeling discouraged, if I'm feeling hopeless, if I'm feeling disappointed, if I'm feeling like I don't have what it takes, if I'm feeling limited, I'm constantly asking myself the question, what am I believing about myself right now when it comes to pursuing my goals and my dreams? And not only that, but I'm also asking the question, what am I believing about God when it comes to pursuing my goals and my dreams? Now, that's a big part of my own personal journey. I do believe in Jesus, and Jesus is a very active part of my life. I know some of you who are listening and watching right now might not believe in Jesus, and that's okay. But that's a big part of my journey and my story. So I am going to be sharing some things from my relationship with God along the way in this podcast. With anything that you're pursuing, if your mind is not in the right place, it's going to be very hard for you to take steps forward. So this episode, in a lot of ways, is going to be about getting honest and vulnerable with yourself, getting face to face with yourself, and actually asking yourself, what am I believing about myself that isn't true? Because you have to acknowledge and address and deal with those things first if you really want to move forward. Those things that you might be believing about yourself could be anything. It could be, I don't have what it takes. It could be, I'm not capable of learning or growing or becoming good at this thing. It could be, I never finish what I start. It could be, I'm limited. I don't have the time, the finances, or just the capabilities of being able to do this thing that I want to do. It could be, I don't actually believe that I can do it. I don't trust myself to actually follow through on a goal because I've had so many patterns of starting things and never finishing them. It could be, I feel like an average person, and I feel like the people who are successful are above average, unique, and have special gifts that I don't. It could be, I feel like the odds are against me. I'm trying to do something in an industry where it feels like it's so oversaturated that there's just no chance of me succeeding at it. It could be, I believe I'm going to fail because I've failed in the past. I could honestly keep going with this. There are so many things that any of us could be believing when it comes to pursuing our goals and our dreams. But maybe I said something that hit a vulnerable spot for you. Maybe it was something that you didn't even realize you were believing until I actually said it. I know for me, as someone who's pursuing goals and dreams in the music industry specifically, one of the biggest ones that I deal with is feeling like the odds are against me. feeling like I'm trying to succeed in an industry that is so oversaturated. Even just listening to the statistics of how many songs are released every single day on streaming services can feel incredibly discouraging to me because I end up with these feelings of, wow, how on earth am I going to be heard and seen and known as an artist in the midst of these thousands of other artists who are releasing thousands of songs every single day? So for me, sometimes I deal with the feelings of I'm trying to pursue a big dream in an industry that feels so oversaturated that it truly feels like the odds are against me at times. Sometimes it truly feels like it's not actually possible for me to succeed at this dream with how oversaturated this industry is. And that's a belief that I personally have to confront and deal with every day as I pursue these goals and these dreams that I have with music. I have to actively change my thinking, change my beliefs, change my mindset, and actually choose to believe what's possible for me. Instead of choosing to believe that it's impossible for me to succeed in an industry that feels oversaturated, I have to wake up and choose to believe that I actually will defy the odds, that it's not impossible for me to succeed in this industry, that I will gain favor with the right people in this industry, that the right people will hear my music, and that the right people will want to come behind me and support me as an artist. That if I continue to work hard and to move forward and refuse to give up and quit, that it will only open more and more doors of opportunity to me and will only open up more connections with people in the industry. I have to change what I'm seeing in my mind. Instead of seeing this picture of myself lost in a sea of people in the music industry, I have to change the way that I am seeing. I have to look forward and see myself standing on a stage, receiving a Grammy, giving a speech, and talking about how I literally came from nothing. And because of my hard work and because of God and because of my perseverance to keep moving forward and to never give up, to never quit, I succeeded. I did what felt impossible. As someone who came from basically no musical background, basically no musical education, who wasn't born in a musical city, who didn't have a team behind her to promote and market her music, who worked hard every single day and learned what it took to get to this place of success, who one day is going to stand up on a stage receiving a Grammy and speak to all of the people who feel like they're not capable, like they don't have what it takes, who feel like they have no education or background in the industry they're wanting to pursue. Those are the people that I will one day be able to speak to from a platform of influence to encourage forward, to say, you do have what it takes. You can do it. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what skills or abilities or background or education you have. You can do it. And so for me, those are the things that I personally deal with when it comes to my mindset and my mentality, that I have to make a conscious decision to change when I wake up in the morning. I have to see myself in that place rather than seeing myself in this place of feeling like I'm just lost in the sea of artists who are releasing music every day. And so maybe for you, maybe you need to change the mental picture in your mind. What are you seeing in your mind? How are you seeing yourself? I would seriously encourage you to actually sit down with yourself, take a few minutes, and literally close your eyes and ask yourself, how am I seeing myself? What am I believing about myself? And if you want to, write those things down. And then I would really encourage you to ask yourself, how do I need to change this picture in my mind? How do I need to see myself? For me, because God is a big part of my life personally, something that I ask myself almost every single day is, how does God see me? What does God think about me? What does He see in my future? And that actually, in a lot of ways, helps me to change the way that I think about myself, the way that I feel about myself. And here's the reality. You might be sitting there listening to this and you already know. You already know what you're believing about yourself. And you already know what you need to believe about yourself. You already know how you need to change your mind and what you need to start thinking and believing about yourself. But maybe you're sitting there and you're feeling like, Kayla, I just don't feel that way about myself. I know that that's the way I need to think about myself, but I just don't feel it. And that's real. That's honest. There are so many times where I don't feel about myself the way that I know I need to feel and think about myself when it comes to my goals and my dreams. And that's the thing. Believing isn't always a feeling. Sometimes believing is choosing to believe even when you don't feel it. And for those of you who feel that way, something that actually might be really good for you is to write out the things that you want and need to believe about yourself, especially when it comes to your goals and your dreams, and to actually write them out and put them somewhere where you will visibly see it every day. And not only that, but it might actually be good for you to declare those things over yourself every day. I actually just bought like a magnetic dry erase board that I put on the fridge for me and my husband. And I'm starting to write some things on there that I feel like I need to believe about myself so that I see it every day when I walk into the kitchen and I declare it over myself. One of the things that I've already written on it is live by faith and not by sight, because that feels like a huge verse for me right now, where it feels like, okay, I need to take my eyes off of what I see in front of me that feels like I'm limited, feels like I just don't have the resources to do the things that I really want to do with music, and to stop living by sight and to live by faith. And another thing that I wrote on there right underneath it is believe God for the things that feel impossible, because that feels really real to me right now. Like it feels challenging for me to believe God for what feels impossible. And so those are things that I'm like writing down so that I see them every day when I walk into the kitchen and am reminded, like, yes, I'm going to believe God for the things that feel impossible. I'm going to believe that God can show up in these areas of my life that I have huge dreams with, and that He's going to help me accomplish these massive dreams that He's put inside of my heart that I feel like are way bigger than me and that I don't feel capable of doing on my own. And that also helps me to believe, when I'm feeling like it almost feels impossible that I will be seen and known and heard as an artist in this industry that's so oversaturated. It also helps me to believe, like, yes, I'm going to believe God for this thing that feels impossible, to believe that I'm going to gain favor with the right people, that I will be seen in the midst of the crowd, and that I will be successful in this industry. And so I don't know, maybe you need to do something similarly. Maybe you need to get a whiteboard. Maybe you need to just write it down on a piece of paper and stick it somewhere that you know you're going to see it every day, and actually declare these things over yourself that you're having a hard time believing, and that even when you don't feel what you want to believe about yourself, those things are going to be sitting in front of you to remind you, hey, this is an opportunity for you to change your thinking and to choose to believe these things about yourself, even when you don't feel like it. And like I said in episode 1, this podcast is not solely about music. I'm going to be talking about music a lot and my process with it, because that's a massive dream that I'm pursuing in my own life for myself. But what I'm talking about is relevant to anyone in any field of society. Maybe you want to be a lawyer. Maybe you want to be a doctor. Maybe you want to be a professional athlete. Maybe you want to start a small business. Maybe you want to be a full-time artist. Maybe you want to start a podcast. Maybe you just have a massive dream to be a really amazing mom or dad. Maybe you want to foster or adopt kids. Maybe you want to build or flip a house. This message literally applies to anyone. So I know that's kind of short and to the point, but this really is the first thing that I want you to focus on if you're listening to this episode or watching this episode. I want you to really get face to face with yourself, sit down with yourself. You could literally do this in like 5 minutes and just ask yourself, what do I believe about myself? And ask yourself, what am I believing about myself when it comes to my goals and my dreams? And then I want you to ask yourself, what do I need to believe about myself, regardless of whether or not I feel it? I want you to ask yourself is, what do I need to let go of? Be specific circumstances associated with why you believe what you believe about yourself. Maybe someone close to you told you you would never succeed at what you're trying to do. Maybe someone criticized you and told you it was a dumb idea. Or maybe you tried to pursue something else in the past and you felt like you failed at it. Maybe you invested money into an idea in the past that you feel like didn't really end up going anywhere. And so you felt like you lost a lot of money and now you're afraid to invest in another idea. Whatever it is, whether it's something that someone said to you, whether it's a past experience, you have to choose to let that thing go in order to move forward. So that's the last thing I want you to do is I want you to really ask yourself, is there anything that I need to let go of in order to move forward into this new opportunity? And I would really love to hear how this experience is for you. If you're watching via YouTube, I would love for you to drop a comment and tell me what you're finding out about yourself, what you're realizing that's actually going to help you move forward. If you're listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or one of the listening services, I would also encourage you to go over to the Dare to Dream podcast channel on YouTube and drop a comment and let me know what you're experiencing and finding out about yourself as well. If it's something more personal that you feel like you don't really want to put out publicly on a social platform, but you'd love to have a conversation with me about it, you can email me at info@daretodream.me. Again, that's info@daretodream.me. And I would love to have a conversation with you about this. If you have questions, you can also drop a comment on my YouTube channel or email me those questions as well. Or you can send me a message on social media on any of the Dare to Dream platforms. I would love to hear from you, talk to you, have a real conversation with you, respond to you, and even just know what questions you might be having come up in this process that I could actually address in future podcast episodes. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I really encourage you to do this at some point this week. Sit down with yourself, ask yourself these questions, and get your head straight. Thank you all so much for listening. Again, my name is Kayla Glaze. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Na, 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 na.